Hello, folks. This is AI 101 on Saturday, February 17th, 2024. We're here today with Patsy and Clara so far. I think we'll have some other folks joining us. It's kind of early in the morning still, especially on the West Coast. But Patsy was just saying how she's the perfect AI 101 participant because she's doing a lot of cool stuff already, and she needs to kind of backfill that with some AI one-on-one stuff. So there you go. And uh, uh, I am kind of on a complementary and kind of opposite path. I've been doing technology for a long time, technology forever, and computer stuff forever, and I got into AI pretty early, generative AI pretty early, and have just had a blast doing it. And the whole time have been working on developing educational courseware for teaching people AI stuff. Um, I've got a partner in, I'm in San Diego, partner in Brussels, a partner in Canberra, Australia. So I know the time zones thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Um, and we've had a devil of a time getting, we're subject matter experts, and we've been learning how to deliver educational content. And we went through a bunch of platforms. I heard you, roll off a bunch, Coursera and the others.
Yeah.
We tried Kajabi and Podia and Teachable, I think, and a few others. And we ended up in a funny place. We ended up with a Gumroad account. Uh,
What was the name of the site again?
Gumroad.
Gumroad. Okay.
Let me show you. Hey, RJ. Um, I think
Hi, everybody.
Hey, RJ.
Hello, everybody.
RJ's on a skinny connection, so he doesn't do video, and sometimes his voice gets a little warbly like that. Gumroad is it's a platform delivering digital content, basically. Oftentimes just files like PDF files or zip files of software or things like that. But you can also do streaming video. And
Okay.
let me show you the storefront. Um, uh, I have a lot more that maybe I don't quite want to show you yet, but
Yeah, I get that part. So, so it's interesting because and I'm looking forward to seeing what you have because, over the last week and a half, I'm looking at I guess there's a job called a job of the future, or like soon to be a job called an AI stitcher, right? To be able to connect technologies. And over the last week and a half, there's a lovely woman who has an API for connecting Chat GPT and other LLMs back into Articulate deliverables.
yeah,
Then there's, you know,
I don't know Articulate, but
yeah, a lot of people currently use it, and I'm interested in seeing whether that particular product will be bypassed in the future for some of the other learning items, or whether they'll still remain relevant. They
yeah,
are developing their new version because I'm sure they want to remain relevant in the sphere. Um, and then, Coursera and edX have their limitations because they are primarily a see, try, test type of platform, but they do have the ability to incorporate these other technologies as plugins. So that's a thing. But looking at, everything that's available, like talking about, I guess it's Sora that's coming through, right, with
yep,
its items. I'll be interested in seeing if, since that's one side of the house, since Google owns their mapping software, they can, place you in real places should they decide to go ahead and, like, come out with, oh, we got you and one better, right? So
yep.
it's a very interesting week of thinking about those items, and I would love to be on the AI Stitcher side of the future. I love solving problems,
Uh,
making things easier,
uh,
helping people earn a better living.
Peter's typing as you're talking there, so you got to give him a chance to multitask.
Yeah, no problem.
I multitask kind of okay. And let me share this. This works kind of like Google Docs, but I'm using different software which works with more things uh, because I've always been a stitcher. So now I get to do stitching with AI as well as other things.
Yeah, I've been the think about the content and come up with ways to logically present the content.
Mm-hmm. Uh, let's see. Let me try this again. That didn't work.
Micro lessons and micro learning.
Yes, absolutely.
And interaction where they actually get to try to do things.
So,
In other words, like program learning too.
so funny you should say that. So in over the last couple of weeks, there's another site to check out in another company. They're called Clicked. I think it's CK. I think it's with an ED. It may be without the E on the D, but D at
Did,
the end rather than a T.
oh,
So just
D.
so I get you
Okay,
to the
got
right
it.
spot.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Clicked provides interactive learning experiences. So check that out when you can. I have to take more time to take a look at what they offer. IBM
I think we
Skillsfield is using them.
I think we ended up with the
That one,
wrong.
it's different. It's
Which
different. I
one?
promise if you maybe put the E in there and see if that makes a difference.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool.
So I find things.
Awesome. You and I will have a lot of fun together. Um, uh, so I was just I've got I guess a couple threads coming together, and on the last Thursday's call, we went through some interesting stuff, and a lot of this is things that I've gone over more than once. For example, Obsidian is a tool that I use a lot of, and Obsidian is uh, a text-based. It's kind of like a notebook. It's where you can keep lots of notes about things, either for yourself or for putting on a website or for working with other people. Most people use Obsidian just by themselves, but with just a little bit of uh, enhancement, you can use it with other people, and then you can also use it to build a website. So it was earlier this morning. I got myself really lost here. Um, so it was earlier this morning. Let me back up. So there's a website I've been building for AI 101, and this is it here. So then the homepage has a list of previous sessions and the recordings. And if I click on one of these, it'll go to a page with the YouTube link and then an AI summary from Zoom and maybe some other notes. Kind of like these notes could fit into that website. So as I'm doing AI 101, I'm trying to keep up with myself and collect, everything that we do into an organized thing that we can all refer back to in the future. So I've got this list of recordings, and then I'm starting a list of topics. And these aren't super well populated yet. I guess Midjourney is pretty well populated. So from that homepage, I can click, look for the topics, look for Midjourney, and then these are sites or pages on this site that have information about Midjourney. So so let me show you a little bit of a different. So let me show you. I'll come back to this and why it's related to this website. But this is Obsidian. Basically, it's a text editor in the middle. It uses uh, a little bit of punctuation to make it so that you can have um, make it so that you can have a little bit of formatting, not a lot of formatting. And if I click the right things there, I can get to the place where it shows me the formatting. I actually typed this in. I typed # space and then this, and then I
So
typed
you added your markdown tags?
yeah. Thanks for going there. This is
Sorry.
this speaks Markdown. HackMD speaks Markdown. So folks who know Markdown can type Markdown. Folks who don't know Markdown can just type text and it will still work. And then if you know the little bit of Markdown punctuation, you get this pretty view for the web or things like that. So if I take notes in HackMD and if people click that link in the chat, you can go here and type on this page. You can take notes with me. Then all I have to do is click download Markdown at the end of a meeting and save that file into my Obsidian vault, and then I have it. And then all I have to do is click publish, and it goes up to the website. So so another thing, I use Obsidian a lot to just kind of journal what I'm doing throughout the day, and then I have a couple personal journals. I have shared journals with other people, and then I can also use the same tool once I know Obsidian and know it reasonably well. It doesn't take too long to learn it because it's really just a text editor and a file navigator and some extra stuff over here. Once I have that, I can do the personal notebook thing, the shared notebook thing, the website builder thing, and then I can even do things like export my ChatGPT conversations in Markdown, because ChatGPT kind of talks to Markdown in the background. And then I have a massive history of all the conversations I've had with this must have been a demo because I don't eat carne asada, but or carne meat, I guess. I think this was demoing my in-laws actually. Anyway, if I want to search for yeah, Python is a pretty good search. All the times I've asked it a Python thing, I can use this same tool, Obsidian, as a navigator into all my ChatGPT conversations. So now, how much does all this wonderful capability cost me? It's basically free, actually. Obsidian is free for non-commercial use. I actually pay for it because, and it's cheap, 50 bucks a year or something like that. I pay for it because I really value it, and I feel like I kind of use it commercially. Mostly I'm using it personally. This ChatGPT export thing is a free plugin that you can install in ChatGPT, kind of an unofficial plugin. HackMD you can use for free. It's got a premium version. Even publishing the website like this is free. I've got software. I wrote the software that will take an Obsidian vault and turn it into a website. And then the website can be hosted for free on a company called Netlify. Because it's a loss leader for them to host these tiny little websites because they host big fancy ones.
And what was the website name again?
The host is Netlify.
Netlify?
Netlify.
Netlify,
So,
okay.
which is right here. So,
Okay, fab.
so today I'm like, geez, Pete, it would be nice if you had some of this stuff written down. And so earlier today, I went to the homepage, my editable version on my computer in Obsidian. And under the topics thing, I typed, upcoming topics with a link. This double square brackets makes a file link uh, in Obsidian and on my website. So I typed upcoming topics, and then I clicked on that to, let me turn this back out of source mode. Most people don't use source mode. So then I clicked on upcoming topics and I started typing. So some of this is copied and pasted from Thursday's notes. Some of it is stuff that I haven't really written down yet. Um, one of the things I think you'll find really interesting is something called computational thinking, which I covered on Thursday. Computational thinking is it comes, the name comes from a computer scientist who in 2006 wrote a paper or a book or something. And she said, software developers have got this thing, they've kind of, because they're working with a really dumb computer, um, they have to be really careful about decomposing their problems and um, trying to understand what the problem is so that they can tell the dumb computer how to do it. No offense, computer. I love you even though you're dumb. Uh, I was going to look for, yeah, here. I haven't archived this off yet from my ChatGPT into my Obsidian, so I had to like look a little bit for it. But somebody said, Pete, how do I learn Python programming? And it's like, well, so Python, to learn Python programming, you need to learn the Python syntax and conventions and stuff. To learn programming, you need programming concepts. And then a thing that I didn't realize was I learned programming before Jeanette Wing, the computer scientist who came up with this name, computational thinking. Um, uh, I didn't realize that she had kind of said, here's what software developers do when they're approaching a problem, and you should do it too. We should add this idea to curriculum, educational curriculum, even for people who aren't doing software development, because it's a standard kind of pattern thing. Like if you're building a bridge or trying to the example that I had ChatGPT come up with, I asked it for an example and it came up with planning an event. You break the thing down into problem or into smaller pieces, and then you kind of like look for the pieces that look similar. You ignore irrelevant detail, and then you figure out, how you're going to make a plan to solve it. So this is a general thing that's super useful. Sorry, I got myself distracted a little bit. So here's this page that's not on the website, but should be. I wrote it up, and then each of these, of course, is a page. These should be broken out into separate pages. So to publish it, what I need to do is make a little note to myself and my teammates, if I had any teammates here, on what the changes are. I can look at here's the changes I've made on the README file. I just added, README is the homepage. I just added that one line, that looks good. And then this is all added, that looks good. So then I'll press save basically. And now it saved it to a place where usually we exchange software, but I'm using it to exchange text. It saved it to GitHub immediately. And then Netlify is, I've stitched Netlify and GitHub so that Netlify is going, wow, somebody just made a change to the website. Let me recreate the website. And if I've chatted long enough, I'm going to check the date down here. This is in UTC, so it's built, I think. So now there's a page on the website and anybody can see this, right? I'll put the link for this in here. And there you go. So I've been wanting to teach people about using the command line. We can go into that a little bit more. I've been wanting to explain why AI 101 teaches so much basic computer stuff. And at least I've written down the header for it, and now I get to write the explanation. And then I've got the tools, the common tools I use for like a lot of computer stuff, and including a lot of my AI work. So now this is up on the web, and we can do the next rev of it. By the way, we won't do the next rev too much, but a really cool thing that you can do with Obsidian is select a chunk from an existing page and say, push that out to a new page called using the command line. So now, instead of having that content on this page, I pushed it out to another page. I can toggle whether or not I want that content still visible on this page, or if I just want to link to it. I will actually, I'm not going to save this to the web yet, but just as a quick demo, I'll leave it like that. And then I can link over to that page and then fill this out. Obsidian, Obsidian has a very big plugin ecosystem, and the software itself is kind of architected to have plugins. So they have like standard stuff that you want to have Obsidian be able to do. But then there's also community plugins, which are open source things built by the community. So there's 1,400 of those. Some of these are very niche. Some of them are used by a lot of people, like 1 million people. I
I
use
can
one
see
called
why.
Git, which is important to this whole thing. But one of these plugins, actually a number of these plugins are GPT plugins. So I won't find which one it is, but I know that if I click this button, so now on this page that needs more explanation, right? I can say maybe I want an introduction to what is a command line on a computer. The command line is. So I can highlight this and then click this plugin that says generate text. And what it does is it sends this out to GPT through the API. And it says, hey, Pete wants you to complete this. So type the rest of that for him, right?
Hi,
So
Peter.
there you go.
I just got to say, I got to drop for the other call that I co-host starts at in 3 minutes.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I'll catch up on the video, but catch you all later. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, RJ.
Thank you.
We'll see
Bye.
you.
So is that a plugin that you picked up from this site or from ChatGPT to generate the text?
It's a plugin for Obsidian.
Okay. So
And
go back to that
it's
next page that had the 1,442
and it's an
plugins
open source
listed.
plugin.
Yeah.
And let me, instead of going to the list of all the plugins, let me go to the settings here and look at which one it was. I installed this on one of the AI 101 calls. Actually, I don't really use it, even though it looks really useful. I'm starting to wonder, Pete, why are you going over to the
Oh, text
ChatGPT site?
generator right there at the bottom.
Yes, there you go. And you'll see that I installed a different one, ChatGPT MD, which I think is interesting too, but it didn't do what I wanted. So text generator is pretty easy. Wow, I'm using 3.5. I should bump this up to 4. This one for next time. I think well, for the folks watching at home, for the recording and for folks here, um, there's two ways to use ChatGPT. One of them is to go here. Actually, there's more than two ways. One of them is to go here and say, a command line is, please complete this for me. A different way to do it, and this cost to use for through this way, it's ChatGPT Plus you have to buy for $20 a month, which is a chunk of change. It's not cheap. I think it's worth it for, I am $20 more productive easily, in the first week of a month. And so I feel like I'm getting a good value out of that. But I know it's a lot of money. So on the Thursday call, we talked a little bit at length about using the same engine, the same LLM in the background, GPT-4, but through a different front end. So you can get a separate front end that might look like this or it might look different. And then you can get what's called an API key from OpenAI, and then you can use it instead of using, buying $20 worth at a time. You can spend, let's look at the GPT pricing or ChatGPT pricing real quick. And the way I do that is by searching for OpenAI pricing. So this is kind of like the wholesale version of ChatGPT. So you have to be in charge of figuring out an interface that's going to work for you, finding an interface that's going to work for you, and then getting an API key from OpenAI. But then you unlock the ability to use it priced per word rather than priced per month. And it's very cheap. It's 1 cent for 1,000 tokens. Tokens are about 3/4 of a word. So this is like 1 cent for 750 words or so, going back and forth between you and GPT-4. We talked a little bit about front ends that will do that for you. The one that I happen to have on my computer, I don't use it too much. I use the web or the Obsidian version. The one I use, or the one that I have and don't use too much, but it's a very nice one. It's called Mac GPT right here. And I can say things, just so this looks different than the ChatGPT interface, the web interface. Works pretty much the same. A thing that I found really useful, and I didn't really want to use ChatGPT until I had this, was a way to export all my conversations. This is a plugin that I've installed that was available before. You can go now to settings and say export all of my data, which works, but it's not very usable the way they export it. And so this thing will let you export a single conversation or all of the conversations. It's an unofficial plugin, and it's a little, you have to use two plugins, actually, a plugin that enables scripts, and then this is a script to use it. So I haven't really talked about this much yet. And unless we really want to, I think I won't yet, because I want to get it more explained for folks before we actually go into it.
Pete, what
Yeah.
browser are you using?
This is Chrome.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Danielle.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was just curious.
No. What's different about it than your usual Chrome?
It just didn't look I'm sorry, maybe it just the
ChatGPT looks different.
The plugins look different, and also how you have export on there. I'd like to I'm really would like to be able to save my chats because there's so many different different prompts that I've created that are like gone now that
I
I'm like
know, right?
I'm so bummed, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I still had those. And so
So
but
let me
yeah,
explain this exporter.
I'll mute myself again now.
And Danielle, are you on a Mac or Windows?
Well, I'm actually on my iPad right now, but I do use a Mac. I'm just listening in right now because I'm trying to get ready. I have to run some errands here in a little bit, but I'm listening in and trying to, and I'm taking screenshots along the way.
There's going to be a recording too.
Okay.
Um, so let's explain the export thing for the recording and for Danielle later when she gets home from chores, errands. Um, so like I said, it's a little bit, it's not, it's a plugin, and it's a plugin on top of a plugin. And it requires a little bit of care when you're using it. Not like it's super easy to use, but uh, you could potentially like you want to think about ramifications, I guess, when you're using it. I haven't found a better thing than this. There's a different thing that you can do, which is just always use it through interface that will save the conversations for you. I actually don't know if MacGPT will save the conversations for me, but I think it would. Um, uh, there's another, there was a pretty cool, let's see. Let me do a weird thing here. I need to look something up in Netlify, so you're going to see the back end of Netlify, which maybe isn't a bad thing on this tour anyway. Um, I need my password keeper, which is over here on this other screen, I think. So if I can multi-type, I can't. Let me type my password into my password keeper real quick. Okay. So back to that question, Pete, why do we teach, why do I teach? Pete, you cover a lot of computer stuff when you're teaching AI 101. What the heck, dude? Uh, so we're in this weird time when you're using AI, you're kind of like right at the bleeding edge of stuff, or leading edge maybe. Maybe I don't have to be quite so graphic with the blood, but I don't know, maybe it feels like that sometimes. So you can get more done if you extend yourself out a little bit into the place where most people don't want to go, right? So if you're an early adopter, maybe you've already seen, like, you want to install an LLM, but it says, well, you have to use a note, what's called a notebook, or you have to install Python on your computer or whatever, right? And it's like, oh, great, that's for software developers and computer experts and stuff like that. I'm kind of here to tell you that software development and computer stuff can get really complicated, but if you learn just like a little bit, if you just stick your toe in the water just a little bit, it opens up this whole new ability to get things done in ways that are going to be easy in a couple years, but aren't easy yet. But when I say aren't easy yet, a lot of it is like just being able to follow a few instructions and put the right, copy paste the right things in the right place. It's not really hard. And I wouldn't be saying any of this if I didn't know that you can always go to ChatGPT and ask it, I'm trying to do this, I don't understand, tell me how, right? So you have this magic tool that will help you get through like any technical situation you're in. ChatGPT is really good at knowing technical stuff because it's got all of that data. So it's, I think it's worth it to be able to use your computer a little bit better and to use AI a little bit better um, before it's, trivially easy to do. And all the stuff that we do now that's a little bit, weird or like a computer thing, it's going to be super easy in a couple years. But then, I don't know, that's not as much fun. You won't be able to play with the stuff early, all that kind of thing. Uh, Here's the Netlify backend. So again, I use the free version of Netlify. Um, the thing they get out of it is I actually have every once in a while I need to pay, or I advise a client to pay for Netlify because they've got like massive stuff they need to do. I've got probably a dozen or 2 dozen websites that I publish through Netlify. And as long as I don't go more than, this is the free tier, 100 gigabytes of people downloading stuff, and it's text, so you don't get that much done. Um, I build lots of websites, so they keep track of when the website gets built. It takes, a computer some time to do that. So I've used 15 minutes so far this month out of 300, so no big deal. I can only have one concurrent build. I can't be doing like 1,000 builds of different websites at once, which big companies will do. So this free tier works amazingly well for me. And this is another thing where it's like you have to like somebody has to have written down the instructions. Here's how you use Netlify. All you need to do is set up this stuff and blah. I have to tell you let me go back to this page and go to other topics, upcoming topics. The thing that turns an Obsidian vault into a website with just simple Markdown, you don't use anything except Markdown. It's called Massive Wiki Builder. It's set up so that if you download like download 1 or 2 things and click the right buttons, Netlify is actually set up for it already. So it's got inside it, it's got the stitching part is automated. You don't have to touch the stitching part. You do have to set up a Netlify account, and you have to say, I want this to be my website. But then you don't even do any of the settings and stuff. It's all set up. So so the thing I was looking up here was, I've completely got myself, let's see, I was looking up, if I look at all of my websites, I'm looking for one called chatbot something. Sites. I can probably just do this, chat. Okay, so I'm looking for something called chatbot UI dot pathshiftpeople.com. Well, this takes, this was a long-winded way to get to something called Chatbot UI. Chatbot UI is a different interface for ChatGPT. It's open source. And then a weird thing happened. It was built really early on by a coder who's really good at building stuff. And then he got distracted and he didn't come back and update it for a long time. So he's come back and he's started to update it, but it's kind of changed. So I'm not sure that the new version is what I want to use. So I know I like the old version, and it turns out it was open source. So this is my slightly modified old version. I'm going to put this in. Maybe you want to use this, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to use the official one, maybe you don't. I don't know yet. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve here. A little bit ahead of me writing down what I recommend. I can't recommend either one of these because this one is old, and this one is so new that I don't know if he's changed it to be good or not. A cool thing it is doing is you can use lots of different backend LLMs, so that's cool. But I don't know if he's made it as easy as this. The thing that I did, he had export data built in, and I added a little feature with the help of ChatGPT doing some of the programming for me. I added a thing called export markdown. So if you go to this particular one, pastshiftpeople.com is my startup with my partners, educational startup. We set this up so people could use GPT-4 via that wholesale API key, like last year sometime. And it's got this export markdown feature. And it's actually got a little bit, Chatbot UI has a little bit better organization of your prompts and your chats. So if this works for you and you would be okay if it disappears someday when I turn it off, use it for free, except that you need to put your OpenAI key here, OpenAI API key. Otherwise, you might continue to use ChatGPT in this export plugin. Okay, so because Danielle asked and because other people might be interested in, let's explain this dual plugin thing that I'm talking about. That's a little bit scary. There's a thing called, this is where the plugin shows up on my Chrome. So let me open a new tab. This is kind of a blank tab, kind of. And if I look at options for TamperMonkey, this plugin, the first plugin is called TamperMonkey. And what it does is it lets people write scripts that interact with web pages. So it has its own kind of app store. The apps are called user scripts. So I've only used this for two different scripts. One of them is the ChatGPT exporter. Another one is the Discord history tracker. This is something that let me export all of my Discord conversations, so all of my prompts for Midjourney. This was brilliant, and I haven't used it in a long time. And well, I think I've come up with a different way to track my prompts, but this was super useful. So anyway, first you install TamperMonkey, and then you have to think, okay, now TamperMonkey is this toolkit that lets other people stitch more or less into Chrome different kinds of things. Let me see if we can find the full app store for. So you can write your own too. If you know JavaScript, or if you can get ChatGPT to teach you enough stuff, you could. It's used for hacking web, I mean white hat hacking. I don't mean black hat hacking. I'm old enough that in the olden days, hacking meant a good thing always, and then I blame the press. The press said people hacked into a computer and then it turned into this bad thing. So the old hackers call those people crackers. They don't call them hackers. Anyway, you could write your own code that does something on websites. So what people use something like TamperMonkey for is for if there's something annoying, like you've got a forum site that you always go to and it's got something misaligned, or you wish this section was over there instead of over here, or you go to Facebook and you want to add features like extra buttons that do better things and suppress some things like maybe ads or something like that. You can write that, or you can go to the TamperMonkey App Store, which I guess I will search for. Yay. So the funny thing is, there isn't one app store, there's four. And let me cover some background here. There's Temper Monkey is a modern version of something older called Grease Monkey. Grease Monkey did the same thing, but is older and maybe uh, uh, didn't get maintained at some point. So Temper Monkey is kind of the modern equivalent of Grease Monkey. So that's why this app store is called Greasy Fork. Um, and this is probably the best place to go look for stuff. So I can search for user scripts for, let me do a simple one for Facebook. Yeah, Facebook, clean up my feeds. There you go. So this is a classic kind of thing to do with Grease Monkey or Temper Monkey or something like that. So maybe you can tell just from here, you're starting to step into typically not stuff that's illegal necessarily, but stuff that's bending the rules a little bit. I don't think Facebook really wants you to be like monkeying around with their feeds, right? Um, it's not, and you don't change anything on there. Is all of this is programming that's added into your Chrome or your web browser. I think Temper Monkey runs on Firefox maybe too, and maybe some other things. So I don't know. And then you'll find glorious things like free Bitcoin. And so you have to be clever enough to kind of find what you need, clever enough or have a guide, I guess, to tell you the things things that you need to use and the things that you want to just stay away from. So if I didn't know much, I probably wouldn't click most of these things and install them on my Temper Monkey. The real thing that it's like whatever Facebook, if I'm making my Facebook experience a little bit better, I think that's okay typically. Um, or whatever. There's another one, clean URLs from various popular sites. This is probably actually a really useful thing. Although I wish there were more installs. But uh, there's a lot of useful stuff in here. The thing to really watch out for with something like Temper Monkey is now I've got Temper Monkey sitting on all of my websites. And if I installed, like this free Bitcoin thing, maybe this is a perfectly legit thing. Maybe it's not. If I install this, how do I know that it's not going to be watching all of my Chrome web pages and uploading all of my passwords, for instance? So that's the thing that you really have to watch out for, right? As soon as you're monkeying around with how your web browser works, especially if you're loading these little apps called user scripts, if you don't know what the user script is doing, it could be doing anything with what you see and what you send through your web browser. So that's the big caution with something like Temper Monkey. So, and why I haven't been talking about ChatGPT Exporter very much. So I think probably if I go back to this, I might be able to find ChatGPT Exporter here, along with a bunch of other things. Another one that I would stay away from, right? Free GPT-4, yeah, maybe not. So let me do a better search here for ChatGPT export. Yeah, here you go. So this is the one I use. I I don't quite feel comfortable in recommending that other people use it. Unlike this thing, I know that you can use it because it's not changing your Chrome browser. It's just a front end that lets you talk to the OpenAI API. And you can't break anything with this. The reason to use this or not, or to use this or not, this is the old version of software. It's still going to work great, I think. Um, and it will continue to work great until Pete deletes it, which I don't guarantee that this is going to be available. but still in all, you could use it, for as long as it works for you. And if I delete it, then the other thing to know, and we saw it on this call, this particular thing is running for free on Netlify, and it takes longer to load than a regular website. So you saw like first I typed this. I typed chatbot.u.people, and that didn't work at all. When I put the I in and hit return, it didn't do anything for like 20 seconds or 30 seconds. So everybody gasped and was wondering what was going on, but it was just this program loading. Once any one person loads it, it's going to load quickly. Like if you load it and wait the 20 seconds and don't freak out, after that it'll be super fast to use, and it'll be fast for everybody uses it for fast to start. It's always fast to use. It's slow to start the first time. And anyway, first time that anybody's used it, in a couple hours. Let me put a little footnote that because it's a serverless function. We'll talk about serverless someday. Maybe not with AI 101 though. So anyway, so I can't quite recommend Tamper Monkey for non-technical folks, and I can't quite recommend ChatGPT Exporter for non-technical folks because it requires a little bit of savviness or thought, or at least knowing what's at stake to use it. However, Tamper Monkey gets used by, I think, probably millions of people. ChatGPT Exporter looks well written, and I've had a good experience with it. And I at least looked at, so now let me go to ChatGPT and we'll look at ChatGPT Exporter. So actually, let me do this a different way. It was better when we were doing this. Installed user scripts. So this is Tamper Monkey again, ChatGPT Exporter. This is written by apparently somebody in Taiwan, I'm guessing, from the ZH on their username, and the names. This is official Chinese language, and then this is Taiwanese Chinese language. So bless whoever Pion X is. This has been a wonderful tool for me. And a thing to note is that on any of these tools, all you have to do, quote unquote, if you're a software developer, you can look at this thing and look at all the code. There's a lot of code here, unfortunately. One of the things to note is that Tamper Monkey is set up so that ChatGPT Exporter only runs on certain websites. So these are all the websites where it can run, and this list was created and maintained actually by the author. But I can look at this and I can say, well, I don't know what I can look at these and go, yeah, this is a reasonable set of websites for it to go to. It doesn't say like Facebook or anything here where it shouldn't be fiddling around, So I, as a software developer, I guess, I can look at this and go, yeah, it's not going to steal my passwords, except maybe from ChatGPT, and I don't think it's going to do that. So then I would look down here. This is some CSS to make the pretty stuff happen, and then there's JavaScript code. I can search in here for password or something like that. I didn't give this a thorough one over, so I can't, in good conscience, I can't recommend this to people. But I can also say that it looks, I use it all the time, and I haven't noticed a problem, and I don't think there's going to be a problem with it. So, so then it adds this button. I guess one more thing that also would scare me if I was not a software developer. Every once in a while, Pion X will release an upgrade for this, which usually fixes a problem because this is all unofficial on top of the ChatGPT web UI. If OpenAI changes the web UI at all, if they change some of the way the buttons are laid out or anything like that, the author has to go in and rejigger the code a little bit to fit their new thing. Um, uh, and so you'll get, I think it looks kind of like this. You'll get a tab that opens up. TemperMonkey will open a tab and kind of try to tell you that you need to upgrade ChatGPT Exporter. It does this really nice thing where it tells you what the changes are, so you can go, is it trying to steal my passwords this time? And you go, yeah, I don't think so. So then you install the update for ChatGPT Exporter through TemperMonkey. So that's another thing that is a bit advanced. So then, if you've gotten through all those warnings and disclaimers and scary stuff, what you do is you say export. You can say export. This is me trying to jailbreak typical GPT. It's pretty well protected, which is good. Here's Piaget's learning stuff. There's a link from computational thinking, which I think everybody should look at. Go type what is computational thinking into ChatGPT and then ask it to teach you some computational thinking with some examples and stuff you want to try. Before computational thinking, the computational thinking was named by Jeanette Wing. She was building in part on top of stuff from Seymour Papert, who was trying to figure out how to teach kids about he was basically trying to teach kids computational thinking, but he didn't think of it that way. He made some really cool, he and Marvin Minsky, I think, did some really cool stuff with a very simple programming language and the idea of a turtle that you could drive around. So then Seymour Papert called his thing constructionism, and then his constructionism comes from Papert worked with Piaget, who's an educational theorist. He had constructionist. So for Patsy and I could talk about educational pedagogy and how kids learn and stuff like that. But a lot of what we think of the way that we teach kids is, kids learn by doing is kind of the approach. Anyway, sorry to get distracted on the content of a thing. What I was going to do is just say I can export this as a screenshot, which is what we used to do in the olden days. I can just open that. But instead of, if it's a long thing, instead of like trying to scroll down lots of stuff, so I could, make circles or whatever on this. But I can also export it as Markdown. And then it's just a Markdown file. I have a Markdown editor I really like for dedicated Markdown editing, and also actually any kind of editing, pretty editing. I use a thing called Typora, which is not free, but it's super nice. So anyway, this is that same conversation exported into Typora. I can drag and drop this into the website if I wanted to. And then it's got this cool thing called export all, which shows you all of your chats, and you select the ones you want, or you select all, and then you can export Markdown or JSON. I would recommend Markdown and JSON, just do both. It will also, this is kind of new for ChatGPT Exporter, it will load your conversations.json, which you get when you do the export, the official export. It'll parse that out into Markdown files. I have to say, an interesting thing happened to me last time I used this, like a week or two ago. Some mix-up between ChatGPT and ChatGPT Exporter made it so that usually in the past when I've exported all of my conversations, they're still all here, and I have to go in and what I say is delete them actually. because I've got them archived on my computer. Um, the last time I did it, a week or two ago, um, it it OpenAI ChatGPT archived most of my conversations, and I couldn't see them anymore here. It's kind of what I wanted anyway, but I was surprised that that happened, and I don't know if it's a mix-up with ChatGPT Exporter or it was just a one-off weird situation or something, but it scared me a little bit. So, okay, so now I feel like we did an interesting thing there where we started off with a nice stitching you can do like with one of the API or no code things, and we got progressively like into scarier and scarier technology depth to a point where I was uncomfortable recommending that people do stuff with it. So I don't know. That's just a thing. Um, I would. I guess I've actually, if somebody goes through that explanation that I just did, all the disclaimers and stuff like that, and they say, yeah, I'll just be careful, Pete, and I'll watch. You can see that ChatGPT Exporter is enabled on this website because there's that red one. I think that means one plugin is operating on this website. If I go to a different website, like I won't do Facebook because I don't really do Facebook, but if I go to Twitter, I can tell that there's no user scripts running here. So I know that even if I need to log in or something, um, I'm pretty confident that no user script is going to steal my password or something. So I've actually recommended that exporter to non-technical folks, but it's a little bit, boy, that's distracting, huh? Um, so don't not use it, but be careful if you use it, and don't blame me if things go wrong, I guess. um, uh, so that was an interesting tour. I always like to go fast. I apologize. Sometimes I go too fast. Where are we at? How are people doing? What questions do we have now for the next 25 minutes? Patsy, I think you're muted. And we could go back, actually. We could rewind and do the building blocks conversation. What are the things that I need to know as we step into this AI world
I
of
think
AI?
a building blocks conversation for this session would be great. And I'm not sure, was it this group where we were talking about like stitching some things together and solving a problem about tracking our time, or was that another guild on the AI Salon?
Different guild.
Different guild. Okay.
We've talked about stuff kind of like that. You might not be surprised, or well, I'm surprised a little bit sometimes, but I think it's kind of cool. I think we've had, actually, I don't think we've really covered stitching something practical like that together. But my take on it was actually, let's understand the technology of stitching
Yeah.
things together a little bit. And this one, let's build an API and a GPT.
Okay.
The for better or for worse, this was kind of a challenge to myself. Uh, let's demonstrate, or let's explore how stitching works through APIs and with a GPT by, oh, Pete, let's just build an API.
If you build it, they will come.
Well,
happens.
the funny thing is an API it's a heavyweight thing. It's like a big thing to build. It turns out that you can build a really simple API with Python with ChatGPT without even really knowing any Python or any APIs. So, you can follow the steps that I went through, and you can actually build yourself a little API that does something like um, shares, you can give it files
Yeah.
and share those files, you know, for a GPT or something like that. And then you can have the GPT actually talk to the API that you just built. And that's a stitching thing. So,
So
uh,
there's a whole company out there called Zapier or Zapier,
yeah, yeah,
Zapier, who's built on that.
yes. Um, so most people go use, I think it's Zapier. I think it rhymes with happier is the thing that we learned one time. Um, Most people, you know, they go use Zapier. Let's look up a connection between Slack and GPT or whatever, right? Slack and some mail program or something. And then you're basically going to the Zapier app store, the Zap store, and you know, installing that. You install it someplace in the cloud, not on your computer, which keeps you safer. Um, but it's interesting to kind of go through, you know, what are the things involved in that. We've talked about APIs a couple different times. Uh, this is a little note about REST APIs. This is more for people who want to write an API or use an API, I guess use an API. It, I'm going to say something which I think sounds unbelievable or stupid, but I think it's really true. If you want to use an API, like if you wanted to use the OpenAI API for yourself, you can actually have ChatGPT write that for you. Um, so you can go to ChatGPT and say, you know, I want to be able to send files to OpenAI and get back the results. You can actually explain that to Python in pretty basic English, and it'll write the code for you, and then you can run the code. It's not that hard. And I think it's useful, kind of the way we've been talking about. It's useful to be at the cutting edge of this. So let's come back down to ground a little bit and talk about building blocks of AI. So Patsy, you know about LLMs, you know about ChatGPT, you know that there's different LLMs, and maybe that ChatGPT is ChatGPT-4 is the best, GPT-4 is the best still. Bard, Gemini is trying to get as good as GPT-4, but GPT-4 is still the best. I last Thursday call, somebody said ChatGPT Plus is expensive. Do I really need to use 4 instead of 3.5? And my answer was yes, you do. Um, it's not that you always need 4. 3.5 is which you can do for free is, you know, often perfectly fine, but 4 understands complicated questions from you better, and it understands complicated conceptual stuff better and can explain it better to you and do more with you, like write a Python program. 3.5 is going to stumble over that stuff. And so I think it's really important if you're using ChatGPT to use the best you can, kind of ChatGPT or another LLM. So maybe Gemini Advanced is okay to use too, or Pi. RJ really likes Pi, and he uses it for chatting with actually, for kind of you know, support in his life. Um, uh, but anyway, the difference between 3.5 and 4 is big enough that you need to figure out how to use 4, and if that means finding a separate interface that you can plug a OpenAI API key into and pay, you know, 1 cent for 1,000 tokens, it's worth it. So that's my take. Then there's another thing. If we go to let's poke around on this site a little bit. I think I don't have a, this is probably where I stopped last time. There's a whole bunch of LLMs. I guess it's not super useful for, I'm closing tabs now. We don't have to talk about all the different LLMs and what they are and why you would use them. Although there is one that I can recommend. It's worth knowing that you can run a an LLM on your computer and have it be a completely private conversation that doesn't go to the cloud, or if all hell breaks loose and everything is nothing works anymore like the internet, but your computer and you still have power, that still works. You can still use an LLM. The one that works really well is called Llama File. I have it named. I have it named a little bit fancier name. So this is something that you need to start it on the command line, but you only need to type that or copy paste it kind of once every time you start running it. Then you watch it print all this scary stuff and you basically ignore it. And then if you go to this website, which is now running on my computer, this is an LLM, kind of like ChatGPT, except I could literally pull out my Ethernet plug or turn off my cable modem, and it would still work exactly the same because it's using my computer to do all the thinking. This particular LLM, there's two parts to this. There's a thing called Llama File, and then there's another Llama File there's kind of a Llama File app store where you can select from a bunch of different LLMs like Llama and Lava and stuff like that. This one is by default, it comes with Lava. Uh, but all of this didn't go to the cloud. It's all on my computer. And it's about as smart as ChatGPT 3.5. They're going to get better. They're going to keep getting better. This one I think will run on a like a a reasonable machine. I have a pretty powerful machine, so it goes fast and stuff like that. I think this would still run pretty well on kind of an average machine. And there are language models that actually run on like tiny little computers and mobile phones and stuff like that now too. This one also has image description. So I can upload a picture and ask it what it is. This happens to be a Midjourney image. This could be a photograph or something. Oh. So I said, describe this image. I didn't start a new conversation, but anyway. So again, this is something that I didn't use the cloud at all. This is all on my computer in Llama File and Lava. So super cool. Okay, so we kind of covered LLMs a little bit. It turns out what I teach about how to learn how to use an LLM is to use it a lot. So get yourself ChatGPT or Copilot or something like that. And like I say, try to be using GPT-4 and not GPT 3.5. And then use it a lot and use it for dumb things. Play with it. Like test its limits, see what it can do. Can you, this is one of the things that I used to do. Poem that's English, French, and German. And I don't know if some people are, one of the things to know is that you can't break a chatbot. So you can type anything in and try to be, so think of a chatbot like a bright, helpful, I think of it as a young grad student kind of level. It knows a lot. It doesn't have a lot of common sense, but it has descriptions of common sense. So it kind of thinks it knows what it's doing. And it's super helpful. It just tries to help you do everything. So, ask it to do everything. I'm writing an email. Can you write an introduction for me? What's the sections I would use in a business proposal? why is the sky blue? Uh, translate, translate. Um, um, I could have actually, because it's already here, I could have said translate the whole poem too. I'm going to stop that and do something else. So another thing with LLMs is try to start a new conversation every time you change topics. So if I was going to say, um, you don't have to type perfectly either with, you'll see that I've got a typo there. I'm just going to leave it. The chatbots are really good at
An LLM is a large learning model. It's actually LLM. And
yes,
so it's the result of putting in,
large
yeah,
language model.
yeah.
Um,
It's a great
so
question for ChatGPT also, right?
it is, yeah. Yeah, the last we had a great question last time. It was, I started saying, teach me some computer programming stuff. Uh, this is kind of jumping ahead into how to learn computer programming with with an LLM and why you might want to do such a thing even. But I can say write a Python program that prints the first, I don't know, this is like a standard old computer programming exercise. Um, I'm this is actually an example of something that I ran into. This didn't do what I wanted it to do, more or less. It kind of said, I wasn't very clear. So it thought I cared about the first 20 primes, and I actually don't. What I cared about was the program that prints the first 20 primes. But it's trying to be so helpful that it said, well, I think Pete really wants to know those primes. So what it did actually in the background, it wrote the Python program, and then it ran it for me. And then it says, I don't think Pete wants to know the Python, but let me run it and show the primes to him. There you go, Pete. So I can redirect it and I can say something like, could you show me show me the script, or I can just look at it here because I know that it's there. I could have asked this a different way. Let me redirect this. Um, another way to say this might have been, I'm learning some Python, write a Python program that prints the first 20 primes. So if I said it that way, show me the program, um, uh, it'll explain it a little bit too. So then I can say something, there's a computer concept here called a loop, which is super important, but pretend I don't know that. I didn't have to say what's a loop in computer programming either, because it knows that I'm talking about computer programming. If I were talking about race car driving, it might have said a loop is something else, right? And I can keep doing this. I can keep going, well, what's the difference between a for loop and a while loop? Or, why would you use a break? Or why would you use continue? Why would you use break instead of continue? Et cetera, et cetera. I think another thing, some of our educational work last year was tuned toward businesses. And a really tempting thing to do is to overthink, to say, well, a manager might say, well, I think an LLM is going to be super useful in writing proposals. So I'm going to find my best proposal writer or my worst proposal writer or the proposal writer who kind of understands the concepts but never wrote a good proposal for some reason. And I'll ask her to get, I'll pay for her ChatGPT Plus account, and then I'll task her with figure out if this thing is going to help us write better proposals. That's an approach. It's a classic kind of business approach in adopting new technologies. LLMs and even image generators to some extent, LLMs are so powerful and so general that I think it's the wrong approach. If I were a manager or a business owner, maybe, um, uh, I would hope that I would see kind of the transformational nature of using LLMs, or a teacher. Actually, a teacher is another thing. I guess a teacher in a school board, teacher and a principal in a school board. It's such a transformational technology that even though I'm a little bit scared, what I'm going to do is have everybody try it, like literally everybody in the company, buy them a ChatGPT Plus account and ask them to try it for different things. Try it with some care and carefulness. Don't go hog wild on it. Don't say, can you write a proposal for this customer and then send it without, like reviewing it first. But I would ask everybody to go home and play with it, go home and do stupid things with it, have your kids teach you how to use it better. um, and then see how it might help you do your day-to-day jobs. The things that I think we wrote this down in notes, and maybe it made it too. Let me see if it's on the website. Um, yeah, it's still on a notes page somewhere, and haven't copied it over. My experience of learning LLMs and finding amazing uses for them was that playing around with it and playing around with it like till you're sick of it, ask it stupid questions, take it on walks or to the grocery store. With ChatGPT Plus, you can take a picture of something and take a picture of a food aisle or a refrigerator case and say what food, what meals could I make with this. Um, Make a picture, that's this, but in an alternate universe or whatever. Just keep doing random stuff with it, right? It's in a way, it's kind of like when kids are babbling and learning language by like practicing out different sounds and how you combine stuff. You do the same thing with learning an LLM. So in the process of doing that, you go and you say, oh, right, boss told me I'm supposed to use ChatGPT Plus at least a couple times a day. I'm writing this email. Let me see if it can fix my typos. Let me see if it can change my grammar. Um, Let me see if it can suggest some different approaches to this tricky problem with a client who hasn't paid their bills, that kind of stuff. So you start finding ways that it kind of incrementally helps you. And then the thing that happens, I think for many people, it happened for me certainly, is every once in a while you go, hey, I wonder if it could blah, you've got something on deadline or something, that's a lot of complicated steps. And you say, hey, ChatGPT, can you help me finish this, proposal? You ask it because you've learned that babbling kind of thing of approaching ChatGPT, and you've tried it with lots of different things, and you kind of get a sense of when it's smart and when it's dumb, and what it's like to ask the next question because you didn't get quite what you wanted. When you've got those kind of skills, you end up trying this one thing, this one stupid thing that is going to take you like 4 hours or literally 2 days, and it did it in like 2 minutes, and you're like, whoa. And those are the things that pay me back that $20 a month. It's when all of a sudden I just did something in 4 hours that would have taken me, or it would have taken me 4 hours, and I did it literally in a minute or two. And then I'm on to the next thing, right? Now I did that 4-hour task, and there were a couple things blocked up behind that. So I'm like, okay, well, either I can do those, or I can get my buddy ChatGPT to sit next to me and help me do those things. So that's the magic of LLMs and the transformational stuff, and why you have everybody use it and figure out how it helps them adapt to their work better, and breaks down stuff for them better. The other thing that I find it really useful for, and it sounds stupid, but I think it's not, getting motivated, keeping on task, understanding where I am in the flow of tasks. All of us have lots of stuff going on, and ChatGPT is a great thing to say, ChatGPT, I've got like 6 different things. I'm trying to figure out what's important to do. You don't ask it, you decide what the most important things are, but you ask it, help me figure this problem out. Help me figure out these 6 things, what I should do before the other ones. And the process of talking through it with a virtual someone else, not a person, is still pretty good. It's not maybe quite as good as a person. Sometimes it's kind of better in some ways, and it's certainly less embarrassing than going to your friend and it's like, I'm clueless, I'm stupid, I don't know what I'm doing. I have these things to do, but I can't even concentrate long enough to figure out which ones are important. If you go through that conversation with ChatGPT, it starts to like help you frame it so that you can do the decision stuff, right? The thing to remember with LLMs is they don't make sense of stuff. They don't come up with ideas unless you ask them, kind of. They assist you in being more human and getting your human stuff done. It's not this big monster robot thing that's going to take over the world. So. And so I think we've kind of come to the end of our time together today. Thanks for your attention. Sorry to take over all the talking.
Oh, you taught us a lot. So it'll take several hours to go back and unpack what you fit into an hour. So I am so grateful.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you
yeah,
so much,
you.
Pete. I really appreciate everything, and I'll try to absorb as much as I can.
I will get this recording up. I think I will get it up this week. I've got like 4 queued up to post. So this is like the 5th or something like that, but I'll get it up this weekend along with the other ones. And so you can go back and look at the summary, look at the recording.
Thank you so much.
And we'll do it again.
All right. Have a good afternoon, you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.